Hi, this is Gene. I'm back from my road trip, the Elvis Burger 2020 road trip. And so now you might have heard a couple times we were talking about that was just the tip of the iceberg. So now you're getting ready to see what lies under the water. And at this moment, what lies under the water is a Crown Royal on the rocks, because you wouldn't believe the crap we're going through trying to get this podcast put together, because the technical crap is driving me nuts. Mitch is good at this. I'm not. But anyway, so here we are. And Mitch, say something.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Y'all know who Mitch is, right? Mitch is the guy behind the scenes. He's literally the guy that I'm talking to in my headphone now.
Yeah, literally.
Along with all y'all. As you see, I do much better at these things when I'm like not just sitting at home having a drink versus driving the car. Because honestly, at this point, I feel way more at home in my car than I do at home.
Yeah. So I got a few questions for you, Gene. I thought I might take this opportunity to ask some.
Yeah, anything if it has nothing to do with tech, because as y'all can see, I'm not like exactly my ebullient self right now. That's because for a week and a half we've been going through this, and today was like supposed to be very simple, like log on to Zoom and do this thing and record it. And then we found out that my Chromebook won't record, and we found out it's going to cost money, and we found out. And anyway, 2 hours later, we're finally doing this podcast, and I'm having a drink, and it's not even 3 p.m. So, anyways, go ahead.
Well,
I would look much better if I was on the road right now.
You enjoy your drink for a second, and let me ask you some stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna.
All right. So I want to ask you some questions, but I want you to take a second to consider before answering. Okay? So the first question I want to ask is, considering the entire scope of the trip from start to finish, I want to know, what did you learn about Americans?
Not America, but Americans.
Americans.
I assume you mean United States people, not like in Latin America, right? I'm very, I just want to say this. I'm not trying to sound politically correct, and I'm not coming down on you at all, because this is what we all do. And it's kind of hard not to sometimes in our language, but I try to differentiate Americans and U.S. citizens. But then again, that makes me sound like, I don't know, like I'm against immigration. Words get really complicated.
You're right.
But I just want to make that clear so people understand, because something I've always been aware of, even when I was a kid, because my dad taught me right, is that America is the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, basically. And I used to teach American literature. And
yes, you did.
In fact, I taught American literature and composition. And so when the kids would come in on the first day, one of the things that I asked them, I was like, okay, look, this is American literature and composition. If your schedule doesn't say that, you're in the wrong place. Right? But if your schedule does say that, then we need to define some terms. So let's talk about what is composition. And, occasionally a kid would raise their hand or whatever, and I say, okay, what is composition? Is that writing? I say, yes, writing. Composition is writing. What is literature? And they would say, somebody reading? Yes, reading. So we're talking about literature and composition, reading and writing. So what about the other word? What is American? And then they would invariably offer some
God, guns, glory, Chevrolet, apple pie, and baseball, isn't it?
Right.
America.
Or maybe it's not, right? And so that's the tough part, right? So when I say to you, what did you learn about Americans? You're right to say, what are Americans, right? And right. So that's my question, really. What are Americans,
Okay, so let me define the parameters of that, in the sense to say, first off, we can't even really say U.S. people, whatever, because I didn't go to Hawaii. I like to say lower 48, because that's really kind of, even though I didn't go to all 48 states.
Right.
But this leads to what I want to get to in a little bit about how I saw America, but the people. Let me tell you a little story about a Sunday morning in Montana. Well, two little stories. I'm good about telling stories, so I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna use two snapshots of individuals I personally met and had some kind of conversation with. The first one is a guy named Black. Black lives in Roxbury, Massachusetts, in Boston. Black is a black man. He worked at the dispensary that I went to re-up when I was in Boston. I went through all that hell driving in Boston, man, just to get an eighth. Man, it's crazy. But anyways, so all the transactions were going on outside. And so he was sort of he was lubricating the whole thing, making everything go smooth and, what do you need and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he and I get to talking, and the first thing he says to me is like, "You're not really from here, are you?" And I go like, I'm looking around going, "What, you saying there's no white people in Roxbury?" He goes, "Well, yeah, there's white people, but nobody in Roxbury wears Chacos, dude. You're wearing Chacos." And I'm like, "So I am." So then I told him kind of, what I was doing, the trip I was on. And I told him I came here just to come to Oasis Dispensary. And then he says to me, "Did you know that we are the only, I think there's 13 of them in the US. I don't remember the number, but he said they are the only Black-owned recreational dispensary for cannabis in the United States."
Wow. Okay.
I'm sure you've heard the talk about it. It's very whitey,
Yeah,
the
sure,
dispensary business.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we got a big talk about it. The reason it goes by the name Black is not because he's black. It's because his last name is Black. I asked him if it was his T-shirt because he was wearing a black T-shirt, and that's how we really hit it off. Anyway, so I wanted to podcast him, but he said, or interview him, but he said, he had to go through corporate to do it. Understood. But we had a great conversation. But what I want to get at is the second person. Some weeks later, I'd have to go back and look on my calendar on my phone. Let's just say it was a week and a half later, something like that. Sunday morning, I'm driving. Essentially that night before, I had left Jackson Hole, Wyoming, went over Teton Pass, was into Idaho, slept at a rest stop in Idaho. So Sunday morning, I'm driving now from roughly south of Idaho Falls up to Butte, Montana. And so I get into Montana, kind of southwest part of Montana on I-15, and there's like nothing out there, dude. Okay, there's nothing. So, by the way, I got to show you this picture. I found the roughest looking high school football field in the world. Like the only thing that could be harder to play on would be a slab of granite with spikes in it. I mean, anyways, that's a side story. But above that little town of about 300 people was another little town of about 300 people. And I had to pee really, really bad. So I pulled over, and if you know these kind of towns out west, they have a place kind of like Rosalind's Cafe in Northern Exposure. It's a cafe, a bar, a lounge, a this, a that, a pool hall, a restaurant, blah, blah, blah. So that's this place. So I go in, can't pee unless I buy something. So I buy some nasty cheese fries. It was the nastiest instant nacho mix I've ever had in my life, but boy, did it taste good right then. And a giant couple cups of coffee. Then found out I could only pay in cash, so I had to go to the ATM, pull out $20, and I think it charged me about $4. Anyways, I did get to go to the bathroom, though. That was the key thing. Of course, by then I'd had 2 cups of coffee. As soon as I got out to my car, I had to pee again. But the point I'm making is there was a guy who was kind of like the bartender. It was just me and him in the place. He's a white guy, beefy dude, kind of built like Black, to be honest, a little shorter, though. And we didn't talk too much. I'm sure he looked at me as some city slicker. But we talked a little. And there was something about it after a while that I thought to myself while he was in the back making my cheese fries, I wish I could get him and Black into a conversation together. Because I think actually they'd get along pretty good. There's something, I don't know, I can't put my finger on what it was, but there's something about the two of them. I could picture them having a beer and getting along really, really great. But at the same time, what I thought was, I'm going to be blunt. I don't know if the United States is going to make it through what we're going through right now. Because driving in southwest Montana on a Sunday morning, I'm talking about the geography, the type of towns, what goes on there for a living, the ethos, whatever, the ethos, I don't know what you'd call it, is so radically different from, say, the Eastern Seaboard. I don't know, man. What I can say about Americans as people that live in the U.S., my experience, I met some really great people. There's great people everywhere you go. I also have seen some of the most ignorant bullshit I've ever seen in my life, especially lately. And I'd like to especially say right here in my hometown of Ocala, one of my reasons I've had a hard time coming home, to be perfectly blunt, is that I did go to some like places that, and I'm going to slam on Arkansas for a minute. I came up with the term Clanvilles. If you ever go to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, or maybe you're in Fayetteville nearby or whatever, they're pretty cool little towns. In fact, Eureka Springs is a very cool little town. Yeah. But they're stuck in the middle of what I call Clanvilles. And fact, the Klan is very active in northern Arkansas. That's a fact. So I don't feel like I'm putting anybody down by saying that. But those places, yeah, to be blunt, they look the kind of place, the best way to get elected mayor is have all your teeth by the time you're 35. And there's a chance that you might get to be mayor. But Yeah, I know. I'm being harsh, aren't I?
That's right.
But all this tech work pissed me off.
Good.
Also, the crap I went through at night in that area, it was pretty freaky. But the point I'm making is, yeah, I kind of expected to see some bullshit attitudes in some of those places, heavy Trumpism, that kind of thing. But to come home to my town of 56,000 people and see it, we're number 3 for COVID right now, growth in the U.S. And our sheriff is not allowing his deputies to wear masks. If you go to the sheriff's department, say you go to get fingerprinted, you cannot wear a mask. The mayors, I mean, it's just, so I don't know what to say about American people, except that people are people everywhere you go. I met some incredibly amazing people. And I also met some complete asswipes.
So
who am I, though? So my question might be, who am I?
Well,
I'm somewhere between really great and an asswipe. I guess.
Let me ask you the follow-up then. You mentioned that you didn't know if the United States was going to be able to survive this. Okay, and I don't want to talk about what this is. I want to ask you something different. What is it now that makes the United States united?
The God Almighty dollar. That goes back to Doc Carper. No, you weren't a history major, so I don't think you were in the class, but you might have heard about it. One day,
in fact, I never took a class with Doc.
Yeah. I was taking a class. I forget which class it was. It was one of my upper levels. Anyway, somehow he got, how Doc can get on side topics. So out of the blue, he just says, I got a question for y'all. He said, what is it that unites the United States? Was more or less the question. And we just kind of open-ended it. I don't remember how many people were in that class. It wasn't, I think there's 8 people, 9 people. So someone says like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And Doc's like, okay, yeah. What we ended up settling on was the dollar. That basically, and I'm seeing this now in the U.S., as long as the dollar will get you a loaf of bread, so to speak, or buck will get you a cup of coffee or whatever it is now, $8 at Starbucks, whatever it is. As long as money's good, this country will last. Because really that's what people are about.
So you think that holds true? What is that, 20 years ago? Does that still hold true?
I think it's always held true. I think that what unites the United States as a people right now, I'm going to be blunt. I think it's just that money's okay. And I think that TV placates a lot of people. And I think the fact of a lack of national health care keeps people worried about their jobs enough that they can't hit the streets and really protest. And I think that basically, especially during the Trump administration, a lot of Americans believe that the world is out to get us. And as long as you have an enemy, you can unite a people. True. Well, what better enemy than basically the whole damn world?
True.
Right? Yeah. Us against everybody, right?
It's the American story, right?
I'm not trying to sound negative. I'm positive about the U.S. In the sense, but I will say that, yeah, what unites us is some pretty shallow shit, if you want to know the truth. Mount Rushmore fucking blows. Okay, there you go. I'm never going back to it.
Okay.
I will say what was funny was I took a knee during the national anthem, and the flag was being folded up by some vets, and that's cool. I've been on color guards. I'm cool. Don't think I'm against the flag or against the country. I'm not. But I took a knee, and then right after it, man, they had a big salute for veterans, and so all these people applauded. And I was thinking to myself, like, yo, I'm a freaking vet, dude. Like, I just took a knee and pissed all you mofos off, and now you get to applaud me.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. And then the plaza there ended out, and I was trying to shoot that video, waiting, but every time I got ready to shoot it, a couple of morons would come out there to make stupid photos. I'm not kidding. One girl was out there for 20 minutes, and my phone was about to die. Dude, this is what makes it better. 20 minutes while her mom tried to get a photo of her picking George Washington's nose. I'm not making this up. I am not making this up. I was standing 10 feet away. I heard the whole conversation. I'm sitting there almost like tapping my foot, going like, can you please pick at the dude's nose and get the hell out of my face? As soon as she walks off, here comes another family. Everybody's got to get a million selfies with George Washington. And then at the same, finally, and I'm thinking, you know, man, I don't know where security's at, but if I read this poem right now, I might end up in a fight with somebody. Someone's going to jump my ass out here. And then it's on because I will beat their ass down, you know. And so finally, I just decided enough people were out of earshot. Nobody was trying to pick George Washington's nose. And so I just did the damn video. And it was like, you know what? If you get in my face right now, I'm going to club you. So just, I'm going on with it, you know. But yes, somebody actually, and I don't know, you know, people would say I was disrespectful taking a knee during the national anthem.
Who's really disrespectful?
Personally, I think if you came out there and you went through all that hoo-ha and you obligatorily put your hand over your heart or stood at attention or whatever the hell you did, or you clapped for, you know, clapped for the Wolfman or whatever that old song is, you know, clapped for the veterans, and then your big goal for the evening after that is to pick George Washington's nose.
Right.
You want to know what's wrong with the United States?
Yeah.
That's it, right there in a nutshell. And let me tell you another thing about I'm just going to rage about Mount Rushmore for a minute. I was there, I guess it was 2 weeks before Trump. Thereabouts. Week and a half, 2 weeks. I think I was in Phoenix when he was there, so it was about 2 weeks later. Here's the sad thing about Mount Rushmore. Is it sad that the 6 grandfathers were defaced? Yes. Is it sad that now in the heart of Lakota land, 4 white guys are on that holy mountain? Damn Skippy. But here's what's worse to me. The kind of people who revere Mount Rushmore, these good patriots, mostly Trump types, who then decide to get their, you know, willies off by picking George Washington's nose, I would think they would view Mount Rushmore much like, say, making a pilgrimage to Jerusalem or something, so to speak, right? It would be a pilgrimage.
Like a religious content.
Yeah, almost like the civil religion, right? You know, the concept of civil religion in America, right? This would be a thing like going to Independence Hall in Philadelphia, right?
Right.
Or the National Mall in D.C. or something along that line, right? So when you go, and you've been to Mount Rushmore, so I know you know this, you go into Rapid City, South Dakota, which is a fair-sized town, and then you drive up, I think it's about 22 miles to Mount Rushmore, and you're going up into the Black Hills, and it's a really beautiful drive. Sure, it's a pretty cool drive. You know, it's beautiful. I was doing it sunset. It was starting to get dark. It was great. And then you run into the tourist crap.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Miles,
drive, except
miles.
For all the shenanigans and the tchotchkes along.
Miles and miles of it. And I get it if you want Junior to see a hall of presidents that you can't afford to go to Disney World, so you take him to the 1 or 2 of them, whatever it is, that's on the road to Mount Rushmore. And it's crap history, of course, but at least it's history. It's something, right? It makes sense. Like, yeah, a Hall of Presidents exhibit that you spend some money to go to on the way to Mount Rushmore or on the way back. I can see that. That makes sense. What the hell does laser tag have to do with it? What the hell does laser tag with dinosaurs have to do with it? What the hell does any of that have to do with anything?
You remember the place?
It makes a mockery of the whole damn thing.
You know, we never did. We should have shot a video when we were in Natural Bridge, right down from the Pink Cadillac Diner. You know, there was that.
Oh yeah, that picture. Yeah, the Confederate soldier fighting the dinosaur golf course.
Right, yeah. There's a place. There's a free plug here. There's a place in Natural Bridge, a mini golf joint that's called Dinosaur Kingdom 2, which means that there is somewhere a Dinosaur Kingdom 1.
Get my leg up, man, 'cause I'm halfway through my drink now. I saw you lay back in your chair. Now we're good. Now we start the video. Now we're good.
So Dinosaur Kingdom 2, the premise is, what if, first of all, it's a mini golf course, but what if the South won the Civil War with the help of dinosaurs?
I think what's funny is people that hold up the old lost cause are dinosaurs now.
Hey, so they are,
and they need to go extinct.
So dinosaurs are literally helping the Confederacy.
Dinosaurs are fighting the war now. Yes, some of them are 18 years old in their dinosaurs, and some are old as shit in their dinosaurs.
Well done, Dinosaur Kingdom 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, going back to Mount Rushmore, I think actually, you know, a lot of people would say, Mount Rushmore is an exemplar of the United States of America. Yeah, I think, you know, like, I know when I was in Boy Scouts, I'm an Eagle Scout, right? I mean, I just want to put this out there for anybody right now who wants to try to find where I'm at and beat me up, because, like, I used to actually sit in on a friend's right-wing talk radio show. I was their liberal foil. Yeah. This is like about 15 years. It's before. No, it's after I met you.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think the second time I was on the show, I'd been talking with someone for 2 minutes. We took a station break, and the last thing that someone called in and said they were going to find me and beat my ass. And the DJ said, the guy leading it says, we're both in the vacuum, man. We're hitting the head. And he said to me, he goes, dang, man, you're pretty good, man. It took you like 2 times, man, to get someone to threaten you physically. It took me 2 weeks. And I'm like,
right.
oh, I'm really good at this. And
you got a knack for it.
well, some lady called in and said something about how, this is back like 2004 or something, 2003. Some lady called in and gave me the spiel about how America is God's country and all this crap. And I said, ma'am, in all due respect, I fear God too much to say that. And she says, what do you mean? And I said, because I don't want to go around calling this God's country when it's founded on enslavement and genocide. I think then she said something about the book of Joshua, and then I gave her about a fast 20-second lecture on a guy named Robert Warrior, who wrote a little essay called Canaanites and Cowboys. And basically he's a Native American theologian. And he said, for all you white people, all you colonizers, you need to understand something. When you read the book of Joshua and you get all, hoo-ha, we're like the Israelites, we're invading the promised land, we're taking everybody out. He goes, when you're a Native American, you're the Canaanites. People I'm so sick of hearing about American exceptionalism. I'm so sick of hearing about its forebearer, Manifest Destiny. Okay? Because I'm sick of people who want to go to Indian powwows to buy turquoise jewelry and watch Native Americans dance. But they're not willing to read Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Wallace, who, by the way, was a white man. Yeah. Or they're not willing to read Vine Deloria Jr., Custer Died for Your Sins, or God is Red. I think the epitome of it was when we were at Barry. There was a student, good friend of my roommate, who shall not be named now because he's become a complete conservative jerk. I think you know who I'm talking about. Anyways, he had a really nice girlfriend. She came from some money, though. She grew up around horses. So we were watching, what were the 2 official movies of my house, along with Braves games? It was Platoon and Little Big Man. So we're watching Little Big Man, and they have the scene of, oh, shoot, man, is it Watchita Creek? I can't remember the name of the battle now. There wasn't a battle. It was a freaking massacre. That's another thing. We have these battles with Native Americans that are actually massacres, right? Like Wounded Knee. So anyways, it was that battle, that massacre was in the movie. Right. And so it's very graphic, at least for a movie made in the early 70s or late 60s, whatever. And so you see the women and children getting gunned down and just all this crap going on and teepees burning. And, it's a horrible, horrible scene, but I think it's necessary in the movie because people need to know this stuff happened. So in the process, though, some horses get shot, right? Yeah. So we're sitting there, the 3 of us are watching the movie, and she's just watching it. We're watching it, and she has no reaction in the movie to women, children, old men, you name it, getting slaughtered. None. They show a horse going down. Looks like it got shot in the ass or something, or I don't know what happened, but the horse goes down. She starts bawling. And I'm looking at her like, that horse really didn't get hurt. I mean, it's a movie, right? No animals were harmed in the making of this film. She goes, I know. And I want to look at her and just go, so you just sat through 5 minutes of Native American women and children being slaughtered. And basically it's like, you're just watching the movie. Yeah, you see a horse you see a horse get hurt and you lose it. Right. What's up with that?
Right. It's not shocking that she is affected by the horse's injury or death. It's shocking that she's unaffected by the rest.
Right. I could understand that, especially her growing up as a rider, as an equestrian. If in the making of the movie, the people getting killed or wounded or terrified, that it's acting. Right. Right. We're not really killing people in the movie. But animals are really being killed in the movie. I can get that. Oh, this woman just got killed with her baby in her arms, right? But that's acting. But now this horse that just got shot, that was really a gun shooting a horse.
Right.
I could understand her freaking out. I would not be happy with that, obviously. But in her case, they were both acting. And yet she freaked out about the horse, not the baby getting killed. You know, I don't know. I want to have a positive view of the United States, and I do. But I'm tired of nice. I do not believe you. You and I had this discussion the day we had the Elvis Burger. I'm tired of being nice. There are things I can agree to disagree on with a person. I think what was the example you used with a certain person? You said, "Hey, look, man, talking politics. I'll talk politics with you if it's about, say, the tax referendum in your community to build said bridge over the river, or
right.
the
That's
millage
politics.
rate." Yeah, the tax bill, the tax referendum about, say, getting more money for schools, or should we build this new park, or where does the landfill need to go, or whatever.
Right.
But when it comes down to basic human rights, like, are Native Americans fully human? Do black people have souls? Okay,
Right.
Like, I know that sounds like something that, I think that's not talked about now. I got news for you. I used to pastor in Mississippi, and I had people at my church. No one ever actually came out and said that old one, do black people have souls?
Right.
But they inferred it almost every time they opened up their mouth about black people.
Right. Yeah. So we can argue about politics, but make sure you understand what I mean when I say politics. I'm not talking about civil rights or anything like that, because if we have to start on that common ground.
Right.
Black Lives Matter. If we can't start there, if we can't start, sexual equality, whatever intersection you want to discuss, if we can't start from some common ground that human beings are in fact human beings, if we can't start there, then we can't. There's no way we're going to talk about the tax.
To get theological, it's like Martin Buber. It's like if you are viewing any quadrant of humanity and not viewing them in an I-thou relationship, that's not politics. That's human rights.
Right.
Though I will say, if you choose to make yourself less than human, I'll call you that. Hey, if you're a Nazi, if you're a Proud Boy,
right,
I'd like to have a conversation with you.
This is the paradox. Okay? The paradox of tolerance, right? It's like
I am not tolerant of intolerant people, and I don't mean momentary intolerance.
Hear that, everybody?
I mean, I don't like black people, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. You know what I mean? I'm talking about Nazis, man.
Right.
Nazis, Proud Boys, those guys, and kiss my ass.
Right.
And it's not theoretical. We have them in the area. Marion County has, the Aryan Nation has a compound that right now, from where I live, it's out in the forest. I don't know, man. It's like maybe 20 miles. Yeah. Not even that. I don't know. Maybe, thereabouts, 15 to 20 miles away. There's Proud Boys up in Gainesville. And if you wonder why I'm like this, it goes all the way back to the 90s. Skinhead Nazi punks were a big issue in Gainesville in the 90s, in the early to mid 90s, maybe even a little later. And I had a friend, I was with a couple friends of mine at a bar one night in Gainesville. It was pretty much a safe place, a legendary bar in town called the Hardback Cafe right downtown. Mm-hmm. And River Phoenix used to hang out there. That was his hangout in Gainesville. Pretty cool. Anyways, I would say I hung out with River Phoenix, but I don't want to sound like, I'm acting like I'm all Hollywood and shit. But he did like my spoken word, I heard. But anyways, so one of the guys walked outside. He was going out, and I guess we didn't follow him right away. I don't know what went on. We were talking to somebody. He says, "Yeah, I'll catch you in a minute," something like that. Anyways, we walk outside. Some like 5 skinheads were curb stomping his ass, basically.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And we were able to get in and, it's ended. But it was pretty bad. And so I really have an issue with Nazis. And by the way, at the Richard Spencer protest, when that Nazi got clocked, I was standing 5 feet away when it happened. And that little hooded person that came out with that swift little uppercut that knocked that big boy back and rolled his eyes back in his head, I've heard people say, "Who was that? That must have been some tough little dude." No, it wasn't. It was 18 or 19-year-old female.
Wow.
Who, by the way, probably was about a size 2.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have bench pressed her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She clocked him. Ooh. Oh, that was
Well,
That was priceless.
this is a good opportunity for a seg. I got a couple
Gosh,
more
everyone's
questions.
gonna think I'm crazy. And I'm talking about beating up Nazis. You know,
What's crazy about
I don't
that?
know.
We love Indiana Jones, right?
That's right, man.
Right. We love Superman. We love all of these
Don't
stories.
punch Nazis running through airplane propellers, for God's
Right,
sakes.
right. I mean, who look at the Star Wars movies. Who do you think Darth Vader voted for? You know what I mean? Like,
Star Wars, I don't understand how Trumpsters like Star Wars.
right.
Either that or they don't know the meaning of metaphor, because that is the most anti-authoritarian, anti-totalitarian movie series ever made.
Sure. Yeah. So, another question for you, similar to the kinds of questions I've already asked you. I want to know, and keep this short. I want you to see how succinct you can be with this one.
Yes.
Three things. What three things did you discover that you did not previously know about yourself on this trip?
That not rediscover, but discover.
No, these are things you just learned.
That I just learned. I can get very graphic about this, but I won't.
Well, actually, maybe we should before you hold on a second. You know, here we are in
I can tell you about doing a number 2 in Woodstock, New York, but I don't know, man.
So here we are in post-COVID America, right? This is what's going on, and everybody's stuck inside, right? And
right.
people want to get back out of their houses. They want to do things, and you did. You like in the most extreme fashion. Did you leave your house, right, and go, into the world? And I think for the benefit of all of us, but there's some practical things to talk about when you go out into the world. Where do you go to the bathroom, especially?
Just sounds like when I was at the Space Museum in Huntsville and they show you the bag they used to shit in.
Right.
And by the way, I had bags to shit in on the drive. And yes, I did a couple times.
I remember a guy.
When you wake up sleeping in your van somewhere, like say a half a block from the cop shop on the main drag in Woodstock,
right.
And you got to go right now, man. And it's
right.
like space diarrhea, dude. You better have a garbage bag handy.
I remember on this Quiz Bowl trip we were on, and
Will Faircloth.
Shout out to Will.
I was thinking of him, bro. I was thinking of him several times on this trip. There were some times I had to go, and I was just thinking, where would Will Faircloth go right now?
So just as a background for people who are watching, we knew this guy, and a heck of a dude. I miss Will really, but Will had a condition. Let's just call it that occasionally he would need to use the bathroom right now, okay?
And furiously.
And we were cruising down Highway 27 outside of Rome, heading most likely to Chattanooga, I think. And it was early morning,
Yep, we were going to UTC for a tournament.
Sun wasn't up, and all of a sudden, Will from the back says, "Doc, I need to stop." And Doc said, "Okay, well, next time we see someplace," he goes, "No, you don't understand. I need to stop right now." And I remember Doc glancing over his shoulder, and Will's face was just the most.
I remember thinking, "I'm glad I'm in the front seat."
Right. I remember thinking, "Doc, I'm going to need you to stop the van immediately." So sure enough, there was this little, I guess you could call it a convenience store, just a backwoods, like the hills of North Georgia, little store on the side of the road, right? You can most likely buy bait at this store, right? Anyway, so Doc cruises into the parking lot, this gravel parking lot, and I'll never forget the sound, the gravel, and then like the door opens on the van, and Will rushes into to this place, and there's some person working behind the counter, and it's like I said, before the sun is up, right? And Will goes in and he says, "Where's your bathroom?" And the person working behind the counter says, "I'm sorry, we don't have a public bathroom." And then Will says, "Where do you go?"
Hey, I did that myself, man, in a head shop down in Bellevue, Florida. When I was working for Interfaith, and me and my bro were out picking up furniture donations.
Yeah.
We were driving down there one day, and there's this old Jiffy store. I thought it was a Jiffy store. It's become a head shop. And I went, man, I had to go right down in, dude. I have to go. So I went in there, and yeah, this girl's behind the counter. And it's all glassware, you know. And I'm like, I really need to go. And she's like, oh, we don't have it. I said, where do you go? I go, because I need to go now. I said, I will come back here and buy a bong from you for this. I have yet to go back there, but I will. I will.
Okay.
If I ever buy a new one, that's where I'm going. But I did a Will Faircloth. I literally channeled Will. Because I was like, where do you go, lady? And then she let me go. Thank God. I would have gone in the parking lot. I didn't care.
So all of that to say, all of the pee and poop stories to say, you learn some things about yourself. And
here's two things I can think right off the top of my head I learned.
All right, do it.
I learned I can effectively climb at over 14,000 feet on a mountain. That's pretty good for a Florida boy who smoked for 31 years. I will also say, though, I learned that I can experience summit fever, and I now have complete empathy for Everest climbers that go through that. Now, granted, I was not worried about being at 29,000 feet, but in the mountains, there are, you know, on mountains, there's like, okay, you need to summit by this period of time because a thunderstorm can hit in the afternoon and you're going to be above tree line and you can die.
Right.
Okay. Or you can die from exposure there's all kinds of bad things can happen.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like, you know, Everest, but it's the same thing, just not as bad. So I was 38 minutes behind the window, the last person to summit. And I had a choice. I actually sat at around 13.5. Yeah, deciding if I was going to summit because of the amount of time. Anyways, the point is, yeah, I had summit fever. If I went to Everest, I would die because I wouldn't give a shit about what time to get off the mountain. That's it. Bottom line. That's the end of that story. The other one is I got in the water in Northern California in 55-degree water and realized that any chance of me ever making it through Bud School would have been a freaking joke. There is no way. I do not know how those guys handle that cold-ass water all the time like that. And I even, you know, I did an interview with a guy. Now, I'm not – let's just say that in my trip, I met at least 2 special operators. Mm-hmm. One was a Green Beret who is now out of the Army. And unless you happen to see that video and I showed you a picture of him, you would never believe what I'm telling you is the truth because he's a hipster. At that point, generally, if you fail buds, it's either you have a medical issue like that, or you just physically can't do it.
Right.
Or B, you have an honor violation or something like that. I mean, basically, you have made it over the hump. And that guy was in all that water. I was like, oh, hell no, man. I was out there and going, no. I'll do surf torture where it's like the water's like 82 degrees. Yeah. But not 52 degrees.
I can tell you, you know, you and I grew up in Georgia, Florida, you know, where it's warm 360 days a year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to go swimming on Christmas Day. You know what I mean? Like, that was nothing to do. And then I moved up here, and this is the first time that I've lived in this kind of cold.
Like where water's actually cold?
Or like the entire Susquehanna River will freeze, will turn into ice.
Right.
And it's just astonishing to me. I didn't even believe it to be possible, right? But I know that, oh gosh, when was it? It was, well, you know, my birthday's February 2nd. It's Groundhog Day, and one of the things I really want to do while I'm up here is to go over to Punxsutawney and visit Phil, you know, on my birthday. The thing is, I started at sunrise, so it's like a 2-hour drive. I got to go over there at like 3 o'clock in the morning and get there at like 5, and then they bring him out and show him to everybody and the whole thing, you know. And I mean, I could be home by 9 a.m. You know what I mean? But it's something I want to do. Last year on my birthday, it was raining, and it was that what they call a wintry mix, right? So it was like raining. And,
it's what I experienced when I got back just into the tree line on Elbert, a mixture of heavy snow pellets and water.
Right. And the thing is, like, what people
and in Butte, Montana, in the middle of the day in July, got that too.
So you know, you've probably been in a snowstorm where it's that quiet snow. where the snow is just like falling like pillows onto the earth, and you
Right.
step out in it, and it's cold, but the wind's maybe not blowing, and the snow
It's
is
like
just,
a Hallmark greeting card.
right. And but like I said, it's cold, but it's not unbearably cold. You know what
In
I
the
mean?
Army, you say in the Army, you call it ass cold, man.
No, I would definitely refer to something what I'm about to tell you.
That's what I'm saying. There's cold, and then there's ass cold.
Right. So I would say that just when the snow is softly falling and there's no wind or anything I would just say that that's just regular cold. All right.
Right.
But when it's like not even the temperature is not that low, but there's water in the air and there's wind in the air, and when that stuff gets on you, man. Oh gosh, I remember one day like I was walking to
the crap that along with dysentery killed most of the soldiers in the Civil War.
Well, yeah. So like
exposure and dysentery killed more soldiers combined. Yeah. Actually, dysentery killed more, but exposure and dysentery killed more soldiers in the Civil War than gunshots and cannon fire and munitions. Yeah.
I remember there was one day pretty soon after we moved here. We moved here in 2017, and it was that winter. I was walking to work. I worked like 2 blocks up the road, not very far at all. So I was walking to work. Now we live off the main drag behind sort of the Episcopal Church over here, and but once you get on that main drag, it's like the buildings are packed tightly. They're like, next to each other, all crammed in there, and that's Market Street. So you go down Market Street, so those buildings being packed in there creates a tunnel, these high protected sides on either side.
And you get that like Chicago wind running through there?
Yes. And so when you step up from behind the Episcopal Church and you step foot onto Market Street, you're stepping
You suddenly are in a wind tunnel.
You're in that tunnel, right? And so you're walking to work, and now I got my coat on, I got my hoodie, you know what I mean? I'm all bundled up, I got my gloves and everything, and I'm walking, and I'm thinking, man, sure is cold. It feels like that To Build a Fire story, Jack London, where he's like,
yeah,
it sure was cold. He just keeps saying that like over and over. Boy, it sure was cold, And then you step out as soon as you pass in front of the Episcopal Church. It goes from being, boy, it sure is cold, to you're just crumpled over in the middle of the street, dead. Like your body just locks up, and that's I don't know. That's a thing that
like, what was that movie? What was it, The Day After or something, when that giant
the day
vortex and the wolves are running around Manhattan and they're burning Gutenberg Bibles and crap?
And then there's this cold vortex, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stick my hand in that," and it's just his arm just immediately freezes, except he's still, very, very similar. So
I seen some cold shit when I was in the Army, man. I mean, cold.
So you're talking about like dealing with you're talking about altitude plus also the temperature and all the water, like things about yourself.
So I learned I would never make it through buds because that water's too damn cold, man.
Yeah.
I learned I can climb a 14,000 plus foot mountain.
Yeah.
And something else I learned about myself.
I know.
What?
You can shoot video in landscape.
Yes, I learned how to do that for the most part. I learned that I will not shit my pants when I feel bear breath on my arm.
Fair enough.
Although my hair will stand up on the back. It's one of the only times in my life not my big long ponytail. That would be funny. But the little hair, but I literally felt my neck contract and my hair stand up. I felt it. I remember consciously thinking, shit, my hair is standing up on the back of my neck. And someone, I've had a couple of people ask me, well, when that happened, like, were you scared? And I said, no. I said, well, yeah, but no. I said it went beyond that word. It was more like the hair standing up on my neck was not a fear reaction. It was more like my Neanderthal DNA kicked in. It wasn't like scared. It was just more like I said, in the military, I had an extremely heightened state of awareness at that moment.
I imagine so.
That was pretty much it. And the bear, at first I thought he'd have a very heightened state of awareness. But then I think he kind of started to realize that he was probably, relatively in size-wise. Like if my van was Jupiter, he was basically like Saturn. Like he was, he wasn't as big as the van. Well, it's like this. I thought he was going to climb onto the hood of my Sorrento, at which point I could have done nothing but take a photo of him. And had he got on the hood, he was as big as the hood.
Right, right.
Like when he got off of it, the rest of the trip, my van would have been like low rider down position with the front axle. You know what I mean? Like it would have been. But yeah, when I knew when it really hit me was all of a sudden I had the realization as I went by him, and he's, you know, right there next to my car on this 8,000 foot or just below 8,000 foot, just past this pass of the Sierra Nevadas, is that my window was down because I was enjoying the night air. And I was like looking at a full grown California male brown bear who just probably got pissed because I shined my headlights in his face coming around that switchback.
Yeah.
And that I could have reached out and patted him on the head.
Given the scope of your whole trip, all right, it starts off as this very silly, just sort of, you're going to get a burger, okay? And then it very quickly begins to snowball into something else, all right? And it becomes important, right?
It becomes a quest.
Yes. And so, and I don't want to talk about, I don't want to give away any spoilers for those people who haven't seen the episodes yet, and we hope that you continue to watch. But what can you say, given that the stakes are continually raised? You know, I mean, you go to visit, Louisville and St. Louis, and then where your dad was from, or where your grandfather was from.
Great grandfather, yeah.
Great grandfather, sorry, yeah, and then. On out west, Yellowstone, you go to CHOP, you're there, and we all know how that turns out or whatever. And so, I'm just saying that the stakes are just continually rising along the trip. And then eventually you do make it down into the deep South where, John Lewis has just died. Suddenly you're in Selma, you're crossing the Pettus Bridge, and then just a couple days
John
later,
Lewis Bridge, you mean?
I hope one day I do mean that, So, but all I'm saying is that, what do you say to somebody who's trying to decide whether or not they should watch your show? How does this creation serve them? Who is the audience that it serves?
I just want to say, watch the damn show and wear your damn mask.
Good enough. But
how would it serve them? A, cheap entertainment. B, you're going to get to see all kinds of crazy stuff in the United States, which you'll get to see more of later anyways when I do further trips. Okay, here's a big thing. I hear people always talk about, oh yeah, if you just watch the news, you don't really know what's happening in the country. I can agree with that to a certain amount, yes. Not quite the way they mean, but yeah, when you're actually out there, you're traveling around, and I'll be blunt. I mean, like I see people every day that I know people like they've never left Ocala, this town. They don't know, what do they really know? Yeah. I mean, versus like I'm talking about like going into. I don't know too many people from here that have both gone to a weed dispensary in Roxbury and gone and got cheese fries and coffee in a town of 300 in Montana on a Sunday morning.
Let me tell you a story. When I was teaching high school, I would always ask my classes this because I wanted to, again, I taught American literature mostly, but also taught world lit towards the end. So when you're teaching world literature, you're trying to gauge what worldview your students have, right? And so I taught in Bainbridge, Georgia, which is basically a suburb of Tallahassee, Florida. I remember asking my students, we lived an hour south of Albany, Georgia, which is a decently sized town. We lived an hour east of Dothan, Alabama. We lived about an hour west of Valdosta, Georgia. And we lived about an hour north of Tallahassee, Florida. So basically what I'm saying is you could drive an hour in any direction and arrive in some decently sized U.S. city. Look, I would ask my kids, how many of you in here have been to each of those places? A, B,
and about
C.
2 of them raised their hand, right?
Right. And only in any given class of 30 students, you may have 2 hands.
I went through that. Hey, look, when I was teaching earth science at my old high school here, this would be back like what, 2012, 2013? Teaching earth science, so we're talking about oceanography. And so when we were getting to that, and you're froze again, by the way.
It's okay, I can hear you.
Okay. Trying to get their interest, what I did was I would do a snippet of surfing videos off YouTube to start class, like 2-3 minutes. And so we're talking, so I'm supposed to teach them about wave structure and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, I guess somewhere early into that section, day or two, I finally said, look, this is no judgment thing. I just want to kind of know what we're looking at here. Said no shame, no judgment, and you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, and everything's cool. And I looked at these kids and I said, and if any of you mock anyone who raises their hand, you will answer to me, and you don't want that. Yes, I would go drill sergeant on my kids once in a while. But I asked him, I said, here I am talking about the beach and surfing and waves, and maybe 48 students, 50 students, say, out of 3 classes. Something, and these are 14 and 15-year-olds, something like 35 to 40%, maybe half, maybe more. I don't remember. It was a very large amount. Had never been to the beach.
Wow.
Daytona Beach is an hour. I'm talking casually driving and stopping to do a Will Faircloth is an hour and a half. Wow. I'm talking like from the Walmart in East Ocala to your toes are in the surf.
Right.
Is an hour and a half.
Bro,
right?
there is no bit of Florida that is far
right.
from.
And driving over to the Gulf, I don't mean like down to the Bay Area, like Clearwater Beach. I'm talking about just over to like Crystal River, that area. And there's a little bit of beach there. That's even less. I can drive to Crystal River from Ocala in an hour. I don't know, not much, And they've never been there.
So you would say then that the benefit of this thing is to anybody who is looking to expand their view, their American view, their view of the country.
Yes,
this is a good way to do that.
This video series, and I'd like to say, now on the blog, what I'm writing about is actually what I'm going to do is write a damn book on the blog and then put it together as a book, more or less. But if you think all you're going to do is subscribe to the blog and you've read the book, you're wrong, because the blog's only going to be mildly edited. The book will actually be edited.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a much, if you don't get the book, you're missing the whole thing.
Right.
But I want to say, when we're talking about America, I'm very, I grew up in Europe. I was just telling someone today, 7 of my first 21 years were spent in Europe. But as a wee little tyke, but also in my elementary school years, which I remember well, but also in what would be normally many people's college years. I was in the Army 19 to 22. I was in Germany from 19 till I was 21.
Yeah.
So it's not like just, oh, hey, you were born there and you don't remember anything. No. I remember growing up in Europe very well. And so I have a very international globalist view about things. Mm-hmm. And so actually what I'm hoping in these podcasts, I have some people lined up, but I also have people I want to get lined up. I mean, I know some people, and I want to podcast them, and I want to take it to an international level. Yeah, but
well, as we're getting ready to wrap this thing up, Gene, is there any you have any last words? Is there anything?
Yeah, man, we got to get a better internet connection. That's what I'm saying.
Don't worry.
I would do it much. I don't know how you're going to edit this to look like anything worthwhile. Because I was in a bad mood from all the tech shit when we started. But I will say that my ice is melted in my drink, and there's this much of it left, and it started here full of ice. So actually, now I'm ready to do a podcast.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a connection.
All we need. Let me take my drunk ass down to McDonald's, man. We'll get some internet.
All right, man. Well, let's cut this one then, and I'll take a look at it and see what we can do.
I want to say one of the coolest things about some of y'all, if you're even watching this, I don't know what you're doing right now. But you would say, damn, man, that guy that's some crappy video, man. It's not crystal clear. It's not this. It don't look like National Geographic at all. Well, screw you. It never was meant to, okay? It's supposed to look like a couple of guys who really don't know what they're doing very much, who are figuring it out as they go. Now, when I say that, I'm not being fair to Mitch, because Mitch actually knows what he's doing a little bit. And another thing, I want to publicly apologize for this. I've been a real son of a bitch sometimes. I give Mitch a hard time, and thank God he does not have a temper, because I think he would have a left hook coming all the way from Pennsylvania, jacking my ass, okay?
I have 2 small children, Gene.
Are they in the room with you right now?
No, I taught high school.
Because I forget his 4-year-old's around sometimes, and I say things, and then, as he puts it, she has questions about my vocabulary.
Just questions, yes.
When I told his daughter when she finally met me recently on the trip, she finally got to meet me, and I just kind of looked at her, and I was like, do you know who Uncle Buck is? You will.
So, I taught high school for 10 years.
I promise to never take either of your kids to the dog track. I personally think dog racing is.
I am not
sinful.
certain that I'm not certain that I can make the same promise. I'm a bit of a gambling addict myself.
Well, I know you are, but still, man, that dog racing thing. No, man, what they do to dogs. I've always said, if you want to gamble on something good, like gamble on your life. That's why I never got into money gambling that much. I never told you this, Mitch. I was a sports bookie in Germany.
Oh, I believe you. Yeah.
But what happened, I did a very bad thing, and I'm just going to say it. This is like one of my secret sins of my life. When I was in the service in Europe, you know, we'd get Armed Forces Television. So we get sports events like, say, the NBA Finals. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get it live. We got it on tape delay.
Right.
We did get to see a World Series game one time live. Now that's a regular thing because of satellite. But when I was in the Army in Europe in the 80s, you got World Series games tape delayed. Everything was tape delayed. So I went home on leave back to Florida. And I was home for a few weeks. And I forget, it was the Trailblazers. Gosh, I don't remember who they played this series. It was 80, 83 or 84. Anyways, it went to game 7. It was one of these, one team wins one game, one team wins the next. It's game 7. Anybody can win this kind of thing. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, man, the wagering going on back in Germany. Well, guess what? The night before I flew back to Germany, guess what was on TV live? Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which wasn't decided until the last minute or so.
Right.
Gene flew back to Germany the next day. Walks in his room. Now, my room, we were known as the Weebles because Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. In other words, what I'm saying is the room that I was room commander of, took bets with everybody, and I won a shit ton of money because I had seen the game and I knew who was going to win, and I got a lot of money out of the deal. And then I felt guilty as hell because I believe in esprit de corps, and these are guys I will go to combat with and fight and die beside. And so what I ended up doing was I'll be honest, I took some of that money and bought some hashish. But after that, I took the vast majority of that money, went back into the till, and I threw a big-ass party in my room for everybody. So one guy says to me, you know, it's during football season. So on Saturday, I work Saturdays, and so all the college football games are on, and there's a zillion games on. And so guys are watching different games in different rooms. And so when you're walking around, you become like Sports Center because you're watching all the games because you're going in all the rooms. So if someone's watching, say, the Michigan State game,
right,
they want to really know what's going on with, like, say, the Clemson Georgia Tech game. You're watching both, so you tell them. So this one guy says, you know, man, you should be a bookie here at VA. You know that little black thing, that little black notebook you keep in your pocket? I go, hey, man, let me tell you what I know. Good bookies never write down their numbers. He goes, exactly. You know what you're doing. And I said, yeah. And I said, why should the chaplain be a sports bookie in the VA? I mean, why the chaplain? Like, we're supposed to be holy people, right? He looks at me and he goes, because nobody would suspect.
The Spanish Inquisition.
And I'm like, and the other 3 guys in the room and a couple people visiting them, like the peanut gallery, I'll go, that dude's right. And I'm like, it's one of those moments when I'm trying really hard to come up with a reason why the dude screwed up, but he was exactly right. He was completely right. I was. So to this day, one of my catchphrases sometimes that comes up in my head at weird moments is, no one would suspect the chaplain.